Guest today, Melissa Rycroft. Melissa, it's so good to see you again. Welcome to the show. I've been waiting for this talk for a long time.
Uh-oh. Should I be nervous?
No, in a good way. I just haven't seen you in a while. I mean, obviously you have been raising 3 kids. What are the ages again?
I have a 13-year-old now, 10 and 8. So
No way.
I'm in it, but they're getting bigger.
Your oldest is 13.
And my caboose is 8. Like, that's really sad to me. You know?
That's wild. So 8, is that, let's see, 5, 6, 7, is it like 4th grade, 3rd grade? What is that?
Oh, it's been a long time for you, hasn't it? No, he's
yes.
second.
He's going into second. So okay. So, because I know they start around 4 or 5, depending on how old they are. That's kindergarten. Yeah. Then 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Yeah. Okay. That has been look, mine are one out of college. One's about to graduate. This is crazy.
I know.
And I was thinking, this is one thing when I bring on former contestants from the show that seem, and I don't mean this in a bad way because it just ages both of us, but to me, it honestly feels like a lifetime ago.
100%.
But it's also weird because it was season 13 of The Bachelor. So obviously we'd done it for a while. It was 7 years in, but at the same time at 2009, man, it feels like a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, I still probably get recognized more for Bachelor, oddly enough, than anything else, which, I mean, again, it's aging us. This was 20 plus years ago at this point, but yeah, I mean, I was 23, I think, going into Bachelor, maybe 22, 23, like just a baby. And people will still come up to me like, oh, you look so better off. I'm like, dude, it's been 20 years. But yes, you're right. I mean, it was a long time ago. But when I even see clips online, I'm like, it doesn't look like me. It doesn't sound like me. It's weird to have that part of your life documented.
Right.
For everybody.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, even when I see pictures of when the show started and every now and then a clip will come out from the early days, Alex Michelle or Bob Guiney or Trista, which was, 5-6 years before your season. Yeah, it's that time capsule gets dug up and you're like, oh my God, I was a baby.
I know exactly right.
Your voice is still high and, your cadence was different. And yeah, I mean, you were fresh out of college. I mean, you had gone to North Texas. You had danced for the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders for 2 years. And then you came on The Bachelor.
And then I came on The Bachelor. Yeah, oddly enough. And I think I've told you the story that I was going through a breakup with my now husband, right?
Yeah, with Ty. Yeah.
Ty. Yeah. We had been together for about 2 years and broke up. And I just had a real hard time getting over it. Had one of my girlfriends who was a cheerleader nominate me. I don't know how the process is now. Back in the day, you could go online and just type in, I guess, somebody.
I'll be honest. I don't think they know how the process is now.
And yeah, it just kind of happened. It was,
it's funny. I'm shocked that I think you were the first, maybe, and even the only Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. I don't know if we've had more since then, but I'm shocked we didn't have more because, being from Dallas, where I grew up, and I knew some of the people from the Cowboys, and I had met some of the cheerleaders from time to time. I may have even been there while you were. I don't know if I did. Did I ever come in the room or like take pictures or was on the field?
Yeah, this all feels I don't remember little details. I have no idea.
Because I'm a big Cowboy fan and I know the Jones family fairly well. And so from time to time I would come to a game and every now and then I would go in and meet some of the cheerleaders or take a picture. And I was, I wonder if our paths ever came so close to crossing or did cross and we just obviously didn't know each other.
Weird. Yeah. No, I think about that stuff. But yeah, it was, the cheerleaders back then were very different than, I mean, we were celebrities in the Dallas world, like going out to bars and stuff. We were little local celebrities, I guess.
Yeah.
Now they're bona fide celebrities.
Right. It's gotten so much bigger.
Yeah, it's definitely a different thing. There was a girl, do you remember Jasmine?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
She was a DCC and now she's one of the Vanderpump spinoffs on Bravo. So yes, there was one other. I think she was the only one, but there was one more Cowboy.
So yeah, I was just, because as I was looking back this morning, as I was getting ready to talk to you, and I'm like, man, 2009, and in the lead up and open to this conversation, I said when people ask me, and I always get asked, what is actually the most dramatic moment you've ever been through on the show? Because I say that quite a bit, and I said it over 20 years. But I say it was this moment. It was 2009.
Now, 20 years later, still holds the most.
Still does. I mean, there were crazy moments.
Yeah.
Whether it was Chad threatening to kill me on the beach in Mexico, or the Jake Pavelka season that got wild, and a lot of things went off the rails and were bad, or bad in a good way, TV wise. But this moment was, and this is what's weird. That's why I wanted to talk to you, because obviously I've spent time with you and we've chatted before, but I think now that we've had time to kind of really think about this and we've grown up and gotten a little bit more experienced in our lives, it's funny to think back on what an indelible mark this made on my life. But clearly it was one of the biggest moments of your life and Jason and Molly's.
Yeah, of course.
And to have shared in that is really wild to me. Because usually, a big moment for somebody like you would just tell me about it. But I lived it, which was weird, which was so weird. I should not have been there.
I shouldn't have either,
You shouldn't have either.
I imagine for you, it was completely awkward. What I specifically remember is when they would cut to the commercial, quote unquote, we're taking a break, and it would just be silence. Nobody. Yeah. And now that I've done a few things, that's not what happens. You cut for commercial, you talk, you joke, you laugh. It was silence with everybody for 2 or 3 minutes while we just kind of sat there. It was,
and for those that don't remember, or maybe you haven't been born yet at the time. So on season 13 of The Bachelor, Jason Mesnick was our bachelor. We get to the end and we are in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And, which was beautiful. And so we're in New Zealand, and it was pretty close coming to the end, but we kind of knew he was going to choose Melissa. And that's what happened. There was a proposal. It was beautiful. We had a great time. We popped champagne. We go home.
Jump in the pool.
Yeah, we jump in the pool. Yeah, we had all these moments. And one of the funny things, before I move forward, I don't know if you know this, but your proposal, maybe this was like an omen. Maybe this was God saying, guys, don't do this. But right as the proposal's about to happen, obviously we know he's about to get down on one knee, the power goes out in the control room.
No.
It's never happened before. It's never happened since. But we have, so just so people know, we're set up, in usually houses or resorts or something. So we'll take over a hotel room or maybe someone's bedroom, and we turn it into this huge control room. So there's like 10 monitors, there's audio behind us, there's, there's all this equipment in this room. And it's as if someone just flipped one switch and it was just zoom.
That was God. That was
God. That was God saying, guys, stop this. And so I'll never forget, because Ken Fuchs, our director, without even blinking an eye, dropped everything, threw off his headset, went sprinting. And it was like, we're good 400 yards away, sprinting down this hill to get to the mountaintop where you guys were. And he started just running from camera to camera to make sure everybody was getting the shots. Luckily, the photogs on that show are the best in the world at what they do. And so everybody just kept doing their job and getting their shots of the ISO shot of Melissa, the ISO shot of Jason, and the 2 shots, and then the jibs, getting these big, but we didn't see that proposal. We didn't hear it. We didn't know what we had until we got back home.
So you didn't know I said yes, technically.
We did because we ran down to celebrate. Okay, so we get home after that little anecdote. We get home. When did you guys know that things weren't well?
Pretty quick. I'm going to be honest. Once the relationship turned to strictly phone calls, because back then you didn't have FaceTime, you didn't have Zoom, you didn't have that.
Right.
It was phone calls. And I think what I learned was that the cameras created a protection around us of there's always kind of something fun to talk about. You have your best stories, you have your best self. And once that was gone, we didn't have a ton in common, right?
Yeah. Well, and the show facilitates that. And I will say and as the show got better at facilitating the relationships that we built in the early days. And I think you were still considered early days. I would say we didn't do a good job of facilitating relationships. We did a good job at building them. Like you said, we made sure that Melissa and Jason only got to see each other for a short amount of time. So it was always the honeymoon phase.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And once the honeymoon phase was gone, it was still, you know, in my mind, I just thought we just need to see each other again. This is because, you know, when I tell people what this process was like for me, like I went from going into this a single woman, quote unquote, falling in love to what I thought I was falling in love. I left an engaged woman and I couldn't tell a soul. I couldn't tell my best friend. I couldn't tell. Heck, my parents found out because remember, they were not even on the show. My parents wouldn't go on the show.
Yeah,
Jason had to call them and just say, I know, right? And tell them, but I couldn't delve into details of what I was going through. Yeah. And so I have this roller coaster of emotions, and now I've got a relationship that is not even 100%, and I can't talk to anybody about it because nobody even knows I'm engaged. It was a really weird mind place to be in. And so in my mind, I went,
and he's back in Seattle with his kid.
Yeah, he's back in his job with his kid doing his thing too.
And you're in Dallas.
And my little cubicle. It's like life, this huge life event happened, and then we separated, pretended it didn't, and continued with our lives.
You must have been like, did any of that even happen?
Am I engaged? Am I getting married? I'm engaged.
It must have just seemed like some weird fever dream.
It did.
Because it's like being shot out of a cannon. Then you're just like, okay, go back to your life. And again, that's where we didn't do a good job back in the day of facilitating those relationships. Yeah, we had those quote unquote happy couple getaway weekends, but we didn't do a good job. And like you said, communication was a little more difficult because you just had to have a long distance phone call.
And you had to be at the same time, you know, it had to be when I was off work and you were off work. And but yeah, I realized pretty quickly personalities were pretty different. Interests were pretty different. But I really thought once this is all over, the show is aired, we can finally be a couple, we'll be normal again and it'll be fine. So that's how I went into after the final rose, even though now we can talk, you know, they bumped our taping up like a month. And I remember asking, and I was like, why did they bump our after the final rose up? It wasn't supposed to tape until like end of February, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. And we did it right after Christmas.
Yes. And I was told, it has to do with Bachelorette taping. I'm like, okay. I remember talking to Jason. I was like, do you know why they're doing this? And he goes, no, I have no clue.
Already reduced price.
Or call 855.
Accurate as of 6/10/24.
Where are you going to be right after? You know, I don't know anything yet. So yeah, I remember from the other side, I can tell you, I got a phone call. I might have even been like Christmas Eve. I know it was right around Christmas.
Yeah.
Because I remember I was with my family. I was on vacation, and they said, I don't know anything yet, but things aren't looking good with Jason and Melissa. And they said, you know, we're going back and forth, but just be prepared. Because the reason they called in the middle of Christmas week is, where are you going to be right after New Year's?
First week of January.
Yeah, just in case. And I was like, well, I mean, I don't know. I'm like, I can, you know, it's my job. I'll be available. And they said, okay, we'll keep you posted. And then it wasn't a week later that they called and said, we are shooting something around January 7th, whatever it was. I forget the shoot date, but this is not going to go well, and we'll keep you posted.
Well, and reference, we actually got engaged over Thanksgiving. So you can do the math. It was not a very long time.
No, that was a short honeymoon.
Right. That we were at home trying to, but I will say there was no breakup. Like, I didn't know production had been contacted. I didn't know there were conversations of, we're going to end this. That's where, when what happened on the after final rose happened, I was like, what? They just had to tell me. All you had to do.
Yeah. Was not pull the rug up. So what Melissa's alluding to, so we decide, you know, pretty early on, we started this special called After the Final Rose. Now it's commonplace and they do it every season. We didn't used to always do that. So we do this show After the Final Rose. We always had a little bit of a studio audience, and it's a lot of fanfare or whatever. And with this one, I get the call and they say, we're going to do this at Telepicture Studio. It's where they used to shoot the show Extra back in the day over there at Telepictures in Burbank. And I don't even know if that's the studio or the building exists anymore. I know that Extra is not there anymore, but we're going to do it in a dark studio without an audience.
See, I didn't know that was abnormal. I had no idea that was not.
Yeah, and I'm like, what? And they said, yeah, they're like, that's one good thing. I do think maybe it was good. They said, we're going to do it without an audience because what's going to happen is I think Jason is going to break up with Melissa and he's going to ask Molly for another chance. He's asking about Molly. And I think he's going to go back and ask her for another chance. And I'm like, oh my God, like what the F is. And so I'm like, okay. So we get there that day and the studio is just two chairs.
Wait, you didn't know what 100% was going to happen.
No, I didn't know 100% either because, honestly, Jason back then, I don't know if he knew for 100%.
Fair enough.
He was a mess. he was a puddle of a man at the time. I mean, he was such a wreck, not to take him off the hook at all,
no.
but he was an absolute mess.
Yeah.
And I did this really overly dramatic open that, we're not going to have an audience, out of respect for everybody involved, as if that made it better, but here was the biggest bizarre mistake because, well, we'll continue to talk. And then I want to go back and tell you the biggest mistake we made among others.
Okay.
We get in that studio and the first person to come out is you.
I don't even know. Okay.
Yeah, you because obviously he had to break up with you first. So and I don't know if it might have just been you and I first, or if it was Jason first. But I want to say if I recollect, maybe you and I sat and talked alone first to get a vibe for what your thoughts were on the relationship. And then y'all were together. But when did you know in that talk that he was going to actually break up? Did you feel the vibe as you walked in?
So to be completely honest, I felt something was wrong going into that day. And he and I had like a conversation after, because I remember before saying, if there's something you need to tell me, like, just tell me now. Like, I would love to know now what we're getting into. And he said nothing. And I'm in the little hair and makeup green room and I had an outfit that I was going to wear and they did not like that outfit. And they put me in that little strapless metallic dress, which is nothing that I would normally wear. They gave me the ring and told me to put it on. And then they made me watch the proposal. I'm doing all of this before I go out to talk to you.
To get you emotional.
Right. And my mind, and this is, again, reality TV was so new. And to me, this was not a show of, how am I going to act? So I didn't necessarily know I was being prepped for something, but I was like, I feel like this is really weird. Why it feels weird going into this. It feels weird what I look like. It feels weird I'm watching this. And the way he greeted me, and I don't remember if I was there first or him, it was a really awkward hug greeting.
Yeah.
And my whole thing was, once we're together, we'll be fine. He'll hold my hand. We'll have eye contact. And there was none of that.
No eye contact. I remember him just turning his head like a little boy. It
felt very cold from the start. Yeah. And I went, okay, here we go. Interesting. We're going to do this in front of Chris. All right.
And it was just us. There was like 3 camera guys, but they were pulled back really far and they're in show blacks and everything was really dark. So it's unlike kind of anything I had ever shot before either. It was really strange and sterile almost. It
felt like it was just the 3 of us in a dark is what it felt like. Yeah.
I felt, and like you said, awkward as it starts and Jason starts talking and he says, we're going to break up.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
I saw this change come over you.
You know what? It was embarrassment. I think when I was so embarrassed that I had gone on this show with people telling me not to do it. My parents telling me, don't do it. I knew people were going to watch this love story. They were going to watch me get engaged. They were going to watch me be happy. And then they're going to watch me get dumped and broken up with. And I was so mad at him in that moment because, again, we had just had this conversation of just tell me if something's happening. Tell me. Listen, I'm with you. We're not on the same page right now, but just
don't be against me.
So, there were a lot of weird emotions. And then I'll be honest, I was looking at you. I was looking at production going, everybody this is about to happen to me. and they sent me out here in this stupid dress with this stupid ring.
And I think you even said in your cute little 23-year-old voice, like, I'm so mad at you.
I know. Well, and then I started oddly talking in the third person, which I never do. I don't know how many times I was like,
I don't remember that.
That's so, I can't watch it. I can't do
Melissa Rycroft is mad at you. This doesn't happen to Melissa. Melissa does this to guys.
No, I never did. That was the thing. But I think I was just really embarrassed. I was so mad at him at the time. And I just wanted to get off that stage and get out of it.
Well, I can think now too, it's, that would be like my son right now, which is crazy to think. He's 22, about to turn 23.
Yeah.
That would be him right now being faced with something like that. Right. You are wholly unprepared.
Yeah.
Mentally, emotionally, to handle something like that.
Yeah. And not even realizing at that point again, because this was all new, but that millions of people were going to watch this reaction. And I remember as I was leaving and I went, I'm going to somehow look like the horrible person, right? He's the bachelor. He's the guy.
Yeah.
You have to make
Oh, that's interesting.
Like,
yeah.
It's my fault and that I've done something. And now I'm going to be the villain in all of this. So
well, at least that wasn't the case.
It takes a lot.
He became the biggest villain in the history of our show.
And can I just say the one thing that I really hated out of all of this, because you were there a little bit, but not a lot. Like Molly and I were friends, and all the girls that season, we were genuinely friends. Jillian and I go have coffee in the morning. I never had anything towards Molly. And I don't think Molly had anything towards me. I feel like
for sure not.
The media set this whole thing up of you must hate each other. And I'm like, I'm not him. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Not at her, because she was there for the same reason I was. We got along great. And there was never anything between us. And to be honest, once I came home and got over the stuff, I wasn't even mad at Jason. I was like, you did me a favor, dude. I'm happy.
Right. Yeah. As you get older, you learn, you're like, oh yeah, it just led to everything that's happened. And yeah, totally. But that is, I do remember, well, first of all, my perspective was it was the most awkward, horrifying thing to be sitting through. Yeah. Because it's like two friends of yours are breaking up and you're like, I'm just going to sit here quietly and just, and by the way, 1 foot away from you, I'm just going to stare. I'm just going to look at you. It was so awkward. I just wanted to dig a hole underneath my chair, crawl in it and just go away. Yeah. But so, as a young kind of host, because I've been doing this 7 years, but this was different. And it was unlike anything I had ever hosted before, unlike anything that had ever happened. Again, this had never happened on the show before. It never happened on reality TV before. It was very groundbreaking and very earth-shattering at the time. And it kind of, if the internet had really been firing at that point with social media, it broke the internet. I'm
so glad it was not, by the way. I am so glad.
Could you imagine? You imagine if social media had existed back then?
No. I mean, I am so thankful. Like, I think there's people going, oh my gosh, but do you know how huge you guys would be? And I am so thankful that all of that happened. And I actually had time to go home, sit, process, go through all those emotions. Because again, you know how I was telling you, I went through all the happiness on my own. I also had to go through this breakup on my own. Like I went back home after this filming.
Oh man.
Still couldn't tell anybody, hey, I was engaged for 6 weeks and then I got dumped. Oh, and he went back to the other girl.
You're going to see it all play out on national TV. Right. Don't worry about
I'm at home in my cubicle, just like spiraling. Like I don't understand what's happened in my life the past 2 months. It was a very surreal moment. And I cannot imagine if on top of that, I was dealing with people on social media who you've got half that are nice. And then you've got half that are just nasty about everything.
You're being kind. I would say 3/4.
Maybe. Okay, maybe. Right. And as a 23-year-old, I mean, that'll totally affect you, I think, forever.
Oh, yeah. No, I do. I don't relish the people that go through, and it's changed now. It's actually, it ebbs and flows. It was huge for a minute, right? It was like, it got really, really big. Now, I don't know how much social media cares anymore. The show's just not as relevant, socially relevant as it used to be. But for a while, when some of these women like Caitlin Bristow or some of these women would go through the show, I'm like, good Lord, they're just getting hammered from all sides. And again, it's the worst of the worst. And if you're young, like being older, by then I understood. And people sent death threats to me all the time. I mean, I would eat those for breakfast. And you just got, people would say things about you that are just horrifying, or your family. And you let them roll off your back. But when you're 22, 23 to 25, whatever these people are, when they're on the show, that stuff's devastating.
100%. Yeah. Because that, I think, becomes what you think your identity is when you start hearing people say that about you.
When you wrap your identity up in the good stuff, right? You want to believe that you're that great. Everyone's telling you, you're awesome, you're awesome. And you start to actually believe you're awesome, which also isn't true. You're not, you're not as good as, you're not as good as the press says, but you're not as bad as social media says. But people do start believing that they are real, these huge celebrities and they're stars. And, because the world is opened up to you in a way that you are not prepared for or used to. Red carpets, and you're flying first class, you're on the late night shows. And you're up here, and then you get torn down because people want to do that on social media. And it's really brutal.
Well, they want to tear you down, but also there's always somebody knocking at that door. There is going to be the next bachelorette that's going to then take all your thunder. Right. And as awesome as you were for 6 months, now you're like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah. What about me? Remember me?
Yeah. So I am very glad I didn't have that. I was able to, I had a cool little career come out for a few years, but then I was able to just come back to Dallas and be a wife and be a mom and do what I kind of always wanted to do.
Did you ever talk to Jason, Molly, or Melissa? Like, are y'all in contact at all, or did y'all ever get a chance to chat?
No, there was one time, you remember that show Wife Swap? On ABC.
Oh yeah, y'all did that, didn't you?
No, we did not. Thankfully, this was 15 years ago, and Ty and I were going through the process of it, and I was like, I don't know, it could be fun, whatever.
Yeah.
And thankfully, at the end, one of the producers, and she probably was not supposed to tell me this, she goes, "Hey, I just want to give you a heads up. They want to swap you with Jason and Molly." Oh, and Ty and I went, "No."
That's a no for us. By the way, great producing. I respect the producers.
You know what? I do too.
For trying to pull that off.
I hope, but I went, they're going to want this weird conversation that isn't even needed anymore. And they want the drama.
Right.
We've all moved. I had kids. I think they had kids at that point. I'm like, it's just not.
I don't really care about you and Jason. I would love for you and Molly to have a cup of coffee someday. Not on camera.
Because she got annihilated with him.
She got hammered too, and unfairly so. I mean,
100%.
It was, and look, I mean, everyone honestly got unfairly hammered. Jason shouldn't have been that, vilified either. Right. It wasn't, it wasn't cool, but it wasn't the worst thing in the world. He wasn't the devil, and everybody moved on. And, I love the fact that he and Molly fought through all of it, stayed together. They're happily married with kids. So everybody ended up where they should in life. It just, doesn't always happen in the perfect way. As I always say, is the stuff I went through. It's like God gives you a lot of blessings, a lot of gifts. It doesn't always come in a beautiful little box with a bow on it under the tree.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, Jason and I were never a relationship that was going to last anyway.
Right.
But whether it ended 6 weeks after we got engaged, or whether we tried to force it, create a marriage that was ultimately not going to last, like, it was not a relationship that was supposed to happen.
Because I remember talking to you later, and we'll talk about this, Melissa and I know you guys don't remember, we ended up hosting a show together.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We co-hosted a show together. But before that, I do remember you going back to Ty, and I think, or I'll just ask you, did that give you the perspective of who you are, what you really want, and to go back and find that and to work on that?
Yes. It was twofold for us. Like, I came out of The Bachelor, I feel like a very different person than I went in. I came out stronger. I came out realizing I'm in all these relationships wanting you to want me. And I'm not ever sitting there going, but do I want you?
Yeah.
Are you selling yourself to me?
Are you a value add in my life?
Right. I don't know why I was so insecure, because I look back at my 23-year-old self going, girlfriend, you had a ton of things going for you, and yet you were oddly insecure. And having a daughter now, that I get hyper aware of that, of like, what happens to make you not realize your worth. And so I came out going, I'm not doing this anymore. And at the same time, while I was gone on The Bachelor, Ty realized that he wanted to be with me, right? When he saw me with somebody else, and he saw the end that I was engaged to somebody else, that was his, holy crap, you know what? I wasn't ready. I let her go. Call. Right. I let her go and the worst scenario happened. And so he fought back for me. So I think our relationship worked because we had both changed. It was not the same relationship that it was the first time.
Yeah.
But would it have happened if I hadn't left? I don't think so. I don't think so.
It wasn't the break you wanted, but it was the break you needed to realize, both of you.
Yeah.
Creator and showrunner Liz Merriweather. We got the Max Greenfield.
And when your family Cellar Barbecue, Henkel's, and Tupperware. 40 to 70% off.
Yeah, the first time, I didn't.
But I also know, and so you get done with the Bachelor, and you did Dancing with the Stars. You did. You won that, didn't you? I think you won Dancing with the Stars.
I won it the second time, not the first time. Yeah, I didn't.
But I also know that they wanted you to be the Bachelorette.
Yes.
They wanted you bad to be the Bachelorette.
Yes.
It ended up being Jillian's season of The Bachelorette.
Love Jillian.
Who we love. And oh my God. And no offense, but I had a blast with Jillian.
Yeah, no, I'm not taking it. I loved her.
But and this wasn't me making these decisions, so I can just say this honestly. I know they wanted you desperately because it just made sense. I mean, after what we just seen, the trials and tribulations, that's what we did at the time. I mean, it was the perfect segue into making Melissa Rycroft the Bachelorette. Tell me how those talks went, and why didn't you do it?
I was in the limo on my way back to my hotel after Jason had just broken up with me, and Carrie Lee was doing my interview.
Your producer at the time. Right.
And she goes, hey, but good news is you get to be the Bachelorette now. And I went, I am 15 minutes off of this stage.
Wow. Talk about too soon.
Right. And I went, and that's how, you think that's a consolation prize? And I went, no, I am not interested in that at all.
That's going to be a no for me.
It's a no. And then Martin was calling me. They were very adamant that I needed to finish my story. That's what the audience needs to see, that you're happy. The audience wants to see you're okay. And my argument, to be fair, was, listen, I just saw you throw your Bachelor under the bus. And I would feel stupid saying, sure, I'll jump right back into that.
You guys will never do that to me.
Right. I mean, I would be an idiot to trust that you would make this work for me and not
very, very savvy of you at the time.
I mean, I was upset. I was embarrassed. I was I know how production works now. Again, this is all 25 years. At the time, though, I was like, I feel like I was a little puppet and everybody knew what was happening. And
by the way, that's not exactly how production works. That's how the Bachelor production works. And as you know, if you've learned anything, there is nothing like that show in the world of television.
You know, what's so funny is, Dancing with the Stars came pretty quick after all that. Right. And Dina Katz,
the casting director, she cast a lot of shows, but she was the casting director for Dancing with the Stars for quite some time.
But I would ask her stuff. I said, so at the hotel, is it my name or is it another name? And she goes, yes, it's your name. Why would it be anybody else's? I was like, oh, because I was a character, and they never used our names on Bachelor. But things that I would tell her, and she's like, oh my gosh, no, that's not how we do it. That's not, you're allowed to go out during the day. You can go. I was like, I don't have to stay in my hotel room. I can do things.
Yeah, we come out of this traumatized and damaged, expecting the worst, which is probably a good thing, because after you do that show and what happened to you, you were prepared for everything, and everything else was just positive and a bonus.
I guess so. But yeah, I did. I was very adamant. They did not take my nose. They fought for a long time. They kept upping the money. I remember that. They were. What
did the money get to? Did it get over 6 figures?
No. But this was 2009 too. It was.
Yeah, no, it's exactly. I know that. I know Emily Maynard got really high just because of, she had a daughter, and it was taking a lot to get her. But I just remember on the periphery, I would call and be like, because I assumed you were going to be the Bachelorette.
Yeah.
And this is also, you and I weren't chatting and talking, again, we don't have social media where you could just text somebody. But I just assumed you were going to do it. Because they are persuasive.
once those numbers kept going up, I was like, dude, I make $25,000 a year at my cubicle. Like this.
Well, and you're at this point, you're what, 23, 24
Yeah.
years old. It's a year later.
Yeah.
And I know who's talking to you. It is the creator of the show. It's all the executive producers. My guess is the head of reality at ABC was definitely talking to you. And I think at the time, the president of the network was coming after you. The president of ABC. Guys, to put in perspective, that doesn't happen. Eventually, typically the Bachelor Bachelorette may meet them, may meet them, but you were getting the full court press because they felt like the franchise hinged on you coming back to us.
Yeah, and I see that now. At the time, I didn't realize. I was like, I'm telling them no. I don't understand why nobody's listening to me. And every time that I would see a phone, like a number from California calling me, I was like, oh my God, we have to do this conversation again. But I understand now why they needed me or what I represented, right? They needed that full circle moment because it wouldn't make sense to bring anybody else in after seeing what they just saw.
Right. Well, and it's kind of, we were, I say again, the third person, like the Bachelor franchise was catching heat for what we did to you. And one of the interesting things and a lesson I learned, as much as I had done television, one of the great lessons I learned was we made the mistake of not figuring out a way to explain to people how time had passed.
Right.
In the time frame. So what happened was we were in New Zealand. Melissa gets engaged to Jason. We're happy. You jump in a pool. This is crazy. Oh my God, it's the greatest because everybody loved you. I mean, you were America's sweetheart. Everybody loved you. And Jason, the single dad. And oh my God, this is great. Commercial break. Buy some McDonald's, buy some laundry detergent, come back, dark studio.
It aired the same night, didn't it? They did the finale and the after.
Melissa, it was 2.5 minutes later.
Yeah, you're right.
Literally, we take a commercial break and we come right back to me, Darth Vader in this dark studio, like death warmed over with this very solemn, we are doing this out of respect. It's like, wait, what? Melissa's hair is still wet. She just fell in a pool 2 minutes ago. Yeah. And now we're bringing you out for this unbelievably sad, destructive moment. People tore us apart. I caught so much for that. See, I
didn't know any of that stuff had taken.
And that wasn't out of malicious intent at all. That was just us being producers and not thinking ahead of how is this going to be perceived by Bachelor Nation and the public. And I will tell you how it was perceived. Not well.
Yeah.
Not well. And so another reason why everybody woke up for months at a time and just had meeting upon meeting of how do we get Melissa back? Because we also kind of needed you to validate us again and say, oh, I don't hate them. These people are okay.
And to be fair, I have never said I hated
Bachelor. No, you did not.
I've never come out and said they're awful, they're horrible, because I wouldn't have ended up where I did without Bachelor. Yeah.
And in fact, you to the contrary, you came back and you were a part of our family and you did things with us and all that. You were never malicious and you were never mean. The fans knew to do that without you.
I guess so. Well, but that was also kind of, I think if I recall, my first season of dancing was like the first seasons of social media. Like I remember having a Twitter and never having a Twitter before and figuring that out. And so I do remember, because I think after the final rose aired on Monday, Dina Katz called me on a Tuesday and said, Nancy O'Dell has gotten hurt on Dancing with the Stars. We want you to come in. Again, I said no. I was like, no, I don't. You ABC people are weird. Yeah. Take no for an answer. Universal word, no. And I called Ty and I were back together at this point, mid-March, right? And I had told him, and he goes, well, how much would you get paid? I said, I didn't even ask that. I don't care how much I'd get paid. Are you kidding me? And he goes, well, ask. And so I called Dina. I said, all right, this stupid question. How much would I get paid? And she told me what week one costs. And I went, or what week one pays. And I went, oh, interesting.
Because I think it was $25K just for week one, right?
No, it was a 6-figure for week one.
Oh, just being, so they did, okay. 'Cause I forgot. I remember
and then it goes up by 25.
Oh, then it goes up. Okay. Oh, then it goes, got it. Okay. So yeah, so just being on, you're like, oh, okay. So we're talking.
So I was like, Ty, I could go for week 1 and get kicked off, and I have made 5 years of what I would make. Yeah. And I had to talk to, I think it was Martin at the time.
Yeah. Yes. And so, and there was a very contentious relationship between our production and I know you're thinking, wait, it's ABC. So there's all this love. There's not. It is so dysfunctional. It is so toxic. It is a mess because the creator of our show hates ABC and ABC hates the creator of our show. So I was always the bastard stepchild caught in the middle. And so were you, was everybody else who was trying to, you'd think there's this synergy. There is, at the point that Melissa's talking about, there is zero synergy. And so Dina and them are reaching out and now you're thinking, oh, I'll just do this. But The Bachelor didn't want you to do it.
Did not want me to do it. Yeah, it was, I don't know how it happened. I assume if I had to think back, Bachelor finally had to wave a white flag and go, if we need the world to see that she's okay and she's not going to do it with us, we have to let her do it. Now, they were not happy about it. I know that.
No, trust me. They were pissed because they felt like you were being stolen from us. Our story, our girl was being stolen from us and her story was going to continue, but not on our franchise. And it was a huge blow to us. It was an ego blow for them. And it was also a financial blow because it did. I mean, I love Jillian. No
she was
slight
great
against her, but a Melissa Rycroft Bachelorette season would have been massive. Off the charts massive.
In those meetings, could they not understand why I was saying no? Are they like, I don't get it. Why would she not want to do this?
The ego would not allow that to happen. And it was just like, this is just this person who I created, who owes me everything. How dare her turn me down?
Yeah.
Where it turns from, I love you to, I will ruin you. I don't know if you felt that, but I'm sure it happened.
I mean, I didn't feel I will ruin you, but I was definitely cast off. Like people would always ask, oh, why are you not at these Bachelor events? Why are you not here? Why are you not there? I'm like, I don't get invited. I've never been asked.
You're dead to us. A lot of people wanted to do, Caitlin Bristow was a great example of, she wanted to be on Dancing and made it very well known. Right. And they held that over her and did not allow it to happen for a long time.
Yeah.
And then finally cooler heads prevailed and she did Dancing. And then it kind of became commonplace that you'll do The Bachelor and go on Dancing with the Stars. And that became kind of a routine because one show kind of would help the other and vice versa, which again, one of the craziest moments in my career was I had been asked to help do an interview for another ABC show. And I thought, it's ABC.
Right.
Like they're my boss too. So I worked for Telepictures, Warner Brothers, Bachelor people, but I also work for ABC. So if they ask me to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
It's the network. And I was used as a pawn the same way. And my job was threatened. It was crazy. So I saw this happening to you.
Well, when I really felt it, and you'll know this because you were there too, when all the Bachelor Pad stuff happened, and that was a battle between ABC and Warner Horizon. And ABC wanted me to be a part of this show and Warner Horizon did not. And I have nothing to do with it. I'm not sitting here going, put me in, I'm like, I'm new to this whole thing. I'll do whatever you want me to do.
So after, just to catch people up, after Dancing with the Stars, Melissa and I co-hosted a show called Bachelor Pad.
Which Bachelor Pad was a fantastic premise for a show.
It was poorly produced. We brought somebody in because it turned into a bit of a game show.
Yeah.
There was like, I don't know if I forget, $250,000 to the winner, whatever it was, this prisoner's dilemma at the end.
Yeah.
And it was a really cheaply shot show too. We shot it at the mansion. We literally did most of the challenges in the driveway at the mansion. So it was the prelude to what became Bachelor in Paradise that everybody loved.
Better though than Bachelor in Paradise because you have that end goal of
the game. Well, you have the game element, which was good and bad because then it became about the game and not love. And there were several issues with it, which I can dive into. But the whole point was, I get a call. I will again, one of those moments with Melissa, I'll never forget. I'm at a Little League game for my son. and I get a call from the creator of the show, and he's like, "Hey, I got great news for you." And whenever he called and said, "I have great news," I knew it was nothing good for my career or my life. And he goes, "Melissa Rycroft is going to co-host this new show, Bachelor Pad, with you." I'm like, what? Who? Like, what? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, "This comes from the president of ABC, Steve McPherson. This comes from the highest of highs at ABC. She is going to be a part of this franchise." And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, okay, I have no say in this. And so you and I met, and it was wonderful, and we had a good time, and we figured it out. The show was not made for two people. And so you and I figured it out. And I hope you know, I really went out of my way. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and make this happen so we can both be co-hosting this together, because the format wasn't prepared for that.
Right.
And you and I co-hosted that summer together, which was actually great. We had a great time.
It was fun. No, it was a lot of fun. I mean, at that point, I came in extremely green. I was not expecting anything to happen that happened after Bachelor, right? I mean, back in our days of Bachelor, you were a contestant and then you went back off to your world. Like, it was not what else can I parlay? I knew very well I was walking into other people's territory. I was like, this is not my show. I feel weird. He was just looking at me a year ago and having to accept a rose. Like, I get it. I just remember I could definitely tell from the production standpoint. I was like, they have lost this battle, and I know they've lost this battle, and I'm just going to tiptoe and keep my spot where they want me. I think I was unmiked like the last 3 episodes we filmed. They're like, "We're not even gonna put the mic on you." I was like, "That's okay."
That's okay. Well, and I know you were also, we did that together. You were rumored to be heading to Dancing with the Stars as the host of that. I know you were up for that for a while.
Yeah.
But it was it's funny that, someone who came on the show as a contestant became such an important part of this franchise in so many interesting ways, been in front of the camera, but also behind the scenes. Like, you were the tipping point of a lot of things that happened on this franchise.
Weird, but I think a lot of it was timing too. The time that it happened, it was going from what you call like the OG Bachelors into this new age world and the social media, and now these people are getting notoriety, and it's not. I mean, it was just, the world was changing right at the time that this huge event happened to happen on the show. So it really just, had it happened 2 years earlier, I don't think any of this would have happened, And then flash forward to like Ari's season when the switch happened again. And I was fully prepared. I sat him down. I said, "Let me tell you how this is going to go." And let me tell you how this is going to go for you. It's not going to go well. Yeah. But it was. I was so prepared for that moment with him and Becca and Lauren. It was like, it was a big deal, but it wasn't what wasn't the earth-shattering moment that became the most dramatic moment in Bachelor history. I mean,
Melissa, thank you so much. I totally, really appreciate the time.
Yes.
I love talking to you, and we have to do this again soon. In fact, we have to do it real soon, because we're going to talk about your time as a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, which is all the rage right now, thanks to Netflix and this documentary.
Yep.
So as you wrap this one up, go check out the next interview with Melissa as we talk all about her experience of being a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening. Follow us on Instagram at The Most Dramatic Pod Ever, and make sure to write us a review and leave us 5 stars. I'll talk to you next time.